Shesha Akhyam Dhama Mamakam Sheshakhyam Dhama Mamakam Tat Sannikrishya Rohinya Tat Sannikrishya Rohinya Udare Sanniveshaya Udare Sanniveshaya Devakya Jathare Garbham Sheshakhyam Dhama Mamakam Tat Sannikrishya Rohinya Udare Sanniveshaya Devakya Gatare Garbham Sheshakhyam Dhama Mamakam Tat Sannikrishya Rohinya Udare Sanniveshaya Devakya Jathare Garbham Sheshakhyam Dhama Mamakam Tat Sannikrishya Rohinya Udare Sanniveshaya Devakya Jathare Garbham Sheshakhyam Dhama Mamakam Tat Sannikrishya Rohinya Udare Sanniveshaya Devakya of Devaki Jathare within the womb Garbham the embryo Shesha Akhyam known as Shesha the plenary expansion of Krishna Dhama the plenary expansion Mamakam of me that him Sannikrishya attracting Rohinya of Rohini Udare within the womb Sanniveshaya transfer without difficulty. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Within the womb of Devaki is my partial plenary expansion known as Sankarshana or Shesha. Without difficulty, transfer him into the womb of Rohini. Please repeat this translation after me. Within the womb of Devaki is my partial plenary expansion known as Sankarshana or Shesha. Without difficulty, transfer him into the womb of Rohini. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The first plenary expansion of Krishna is Baladeva, also known as Shesha. The Shesha incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead supports the entire universe, and the eternal mother of this incarnation is Mother Rohini. Because I am going into the womb of Devaki, the Lord told Yogamaya, The Shesha incarnation has already gone there and made suitable arrangements so that I may live there. Now he should enter the womb of Rohini, his eternal mother. In this connection, one may ask how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always situated transcendentally, could enter the womb of Devaki, which had previously been entered by the 6 asuras, the Shadgarbhas. Does this mean that the Shadgarbhasuras were equal to the transcendental body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The following answer is given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The entire creation, as well as its individual parts, is an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, even though the Lord enters the material world, he does not do so. This is explained by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, verses 4 and 5. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavasthitaha nachamatstani bhutani pashyame yogamashwaram bhutabhrannacha bhutasto mamatma bhutabhavanaha. The translation of these two verses: by me in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet, everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, myself is the very source of creation. End of the translation. Sarvam khalvidam Brahma. Everything is an expansion of Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, everything is not the Supreme Godhead, and he is not everywhere. Everything rests upon him, and yet does not rest upon him. This can be explained only through the Achintya, Bheda, Abheda philosophy. Such truths cannot be understood, however, unless one is a pure devotee. For the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18.55, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvataha. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is only by devotional service. Even though the Lord cannot be understood by ordinary persons, this principle should be understood from the statement of the Shastras. A pure devotee is always transcendentally situated because of executing 9 different processes of Bhakti Yoga. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma, Nivedanam. Thus situated in devotional service, a devotee, although in the material world, is not in the material world. Yet, a devotee always fears, because I am associated with the material world, so many contaminations affect me. Therefore, he is always alert in fear, which gradually diminishes his material association. Symbolically, Mother Devaki's constant fear of Kamsa was purifying her. A pure devotee should always fear material association, and in this way all the asuras of material association will be killed, as the Shadgarbhasuras were killed by Kamsa. It is said that from the mind, Marichi appears. In other words, Marichi is an incarnation of the mind. Marichi has 6 sons: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya. These are translated as lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in pure devotional service. This is confirmed in the Vedas. Bhaktir evainam darshayati. Only bhakti can bring one in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appears from the womb of Devaki, and therefore Devaki symbolically represents bhakti, and Kamsa symbolically represents material fear. When a pure devotee always fears material association, his real position of bhakti is manifested, and he naturally becomes uninterested in material enjoyment. When the 6 sons of Marichi are killed by such fear, and one is freed from material contamination, within the womb of bhakti, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears. Thus, the 7th pregnancy of Devaki signifies the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After the 6 sons, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, and Mada, Matsarya, are killed, the Shesha incarnation creates a suitable situation for the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, when one awakens his natural Krishna consciousness, Lord Krishna appears. This is the explanation given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the background for this verse is that Krishna, in order to protect the Yadus, his personal devotees, he ordered Yogamaya to do something. That order is given here in today's verse. The Lord ordered Yogamaya that within the womb of Devaki is my partial plenary expansion known as Sankarshan or Shesha. Without difficulty, transfer him into the womb of Rohini. So what did the Lord order Yogamaya? To transfer Shesha from Devaki's womb to Rohini's womb. So the entire purport elaborately explains this transfer. Why Shesha entered the Devaki's womb and why was Shesha transferred from Devaki's womb to Rohini's womb. That's explained by Prabhupada in the purport. So let us understand this purport little by little, slowly. It's a long purport. So who is Shesha? Shesha is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the expansion of the original Lord Krishna. Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has his original personal form. And he also expands himself personally in many, many other forms. So all these other forms are the same Supreme Lord himself, Krishna himself. But each of the other forms of the Lord act as if they are independently different persons. It's only possible for the Supreme Lord. Nobody else can do this. So, the Supreme Lord, even though one person, as the single person, he is present in multiple forms, as if there are many different persons. Now, each of them is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. Same Supreme Personality of Godhead. And yet, because they act independently, each of them acts independently, they appear like so many different personalities, separate personalities. So this is one inconceivable fact about the Supreme Lord. Those who are non-devotees, they can never understand this. That one Supreme Lord is present as many different personalities. He is the same person, yet he acts differently, as if there are many different personalities, completely different from each other. So, Krishna's one expansion, Shesha. So, Shesha is Krishna himself in another form. So, that Shesha entered first the womb of Devaki as the seventh son of Devaki. The first 6 sons, who were they? They were the 6 sons of Marichi, who were cursed to take birth on the earth, and they entered the womb of Devaki as the first 6 sons of Devaki. And they were all killed by Kamsa as soon as they appeared. Because that was Krishna's arrangement to deliver them from the curse. And Kamsa became the instrument for their deliverance by the arrangement of Krishna. But the 7th son of Devaki was the Supreme Lord himself entering the womb of Devaki. And yet, to arrange for Krishna to enter the womb of Devaki as the 8th son of Devaki, Shesha first of all entered as the 7th son. And he entered for preparing the womb of Devaki for Krishna to enter the womb of Devaki as the 8th son. And that is exactly the function of Shesha. Shesha always makes arrangements for Krishna. Always. In the spiritual world, in the material world, everywhere. So, there is a explanation given here that how is it possible that Krishna entered the womb of Devaki, which was also previously been entered by 6 asuras, the Shadgarbhasuras. So the answer is given by one of the previous acharyas, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, very elaborately. He explains that actually Krishna did not enter the womb of Devaki. So the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains this fact that he enters this material creation because of which this whole material creation develops from the undeveloped state. It becomes manifest as this developed universe with all the varieties. Now, Krishna says, actually, I enter and I don't enter. So this he describes as his inconceivable mystic power. Yoga Aishwarya, Aishwaram, Yoga Aishwaram. This is his mystic potency. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains with an example, how is it possible that Krishna enters and does not enter? We have experienced that when the sun rises, then the sunshine spreads throughout the whole universe. Sunshine is the energy of the sun, the effulgence of the sun. So in one sense, sunshine is not different from the sun, because sunshine has no existence without the sun. And sunshine is nothing but the light of the sun, the sun's own energy, the sun's own effulgence. So sunshine is the sun. Now at the same time, if we say sunshine is entering my room, that is not the same as sun is entering my room. The sun is always different from the sunshine in this connection. It's not the same. If sun were to enter the room, then the room would not exist, would be finished. But sunshine enters the room, that is okay. So, simultaneously, we can say the sun has entered the room and sun has not entered the room. This is called Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. Krishna has got his energies, and these energies are spread throughout the material creation and the spiritual world. Krishna's energies are everywhere. So, throughout the material world, Krishna's material energy is expanded. And that material energy is present as different varieties of matter. Varieties of matter as varieties of bodies, varieties of material objects, varieties of planets, all the variety that we see, the sky, the earth, the five elements, the mind, the intelligence, the pulse ego, everything. This is Krishna's material energy. Now, everything that is created is resting in the material energy of Krishna. Everything that is created in this material world is resting in the energy of Krishna. So, since the energy of Krishna is non-different from Krishna, because it cannot exist without Krishna. It is Krishna's own energy. So we can say, in one sense, the entire creation is resting in Krishna. So when it is said it is resting in Krishna, you not mistakenly think it is resting in Krishna's personality. No. It is resting in Krishna's expanded material energy. At the same time, as the Supreme Person, Krishna has got his separate existence as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is completely aloof from this entire creation, and he is always eternally present in his personal abode, Goloka Vrindavana. There he is eternally engaged in his loving pastimes with his devotees. So he is completely aloof from this entire creation. And yet, the creation is not independent of Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mayadhyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam. By my superintendence, this entire material creation is working. Is working under the direction of Krishna. And Krishna's direction, how is it being given by Krishna? Through his energy. Krishna is directing this entire material creation through his energy. And that energy is working as if it is automatically working with no one present to actually control the energy or operate that energy. Prabhupada gives an example of an automatic machine in a very big. Now there is a new car factory set up by one company called Tesla. It is totally automated. The most advanced robotics has been employed there to manufacture cars. Now, the entire setup, actually inside you don't see any human beings, any operators even you don't see. But does it mean that there is no human intelligence that is working? No. The human intelligence is working. It's not that the machines are intelligent, machines are working independently. No. It is designed, it is set up by the intelligence of some human being. And it is designed in such a way that if he just pushes one button, the whole huge factory starts working. And it works exactly as designed to produce cars. But always, the control is with the engineer or the operator. The control is always with the operator. Operator may not be present there where the machine is working. So you cannot see the operator there in the vicinity of the machine. But the operator is definitely there in the background and completely controlling. Exactly like that. If an ordinary human being can have an automatic machine being controlled remotely, why can't Krishna in Goloka Vrindavana remotely control this entire material creation which he has actually created by his energy, by his intelligence, by his arrangement? He has created. He controls. And it works exactly according to his design, his creation, his will. It works exactly. So, this example is given by Srila Prabhupada to help us understand that Krishna simultaneously is controlling this material world, and yet he is aloof entirely from this material world. So, in the same way, Krishna entered the womb of Devaki and did not enter the womb of Devaki. Now, if we say he entered the womb of Devaki, yes, Devaki became pregnant for the 8th time, and it was Krishna who appeared as her 8th son. So to say that Krishna has entered the womb of Devaki is not wrong. At the same time, Krishna is not in the material world, never in the material world. Even though he incarnates in the material world, he is never in the material world. He is always in the spiritual world. He is completely aloof from this material world, from this material creation. How is that to be understood? He does not come in contact with matter, even though he comes to this material world. He does not come in touch with matter. He is not under the material energy. He is not under the material modes. He is not subject to the laws of material nature. He does not accept a body like we accept a body when we enter a mother's womb. We are completely helpless when we enter the mother's womb. We have to suffer the peculiar conditions in which the body is developed in the mother's womb for 9 months. It is a most uncomfortable situation, but it is the suitable situation for this body to develop. Yet it is very, very uncomfortable. That's called the fundamental misery of what is called as birth. Birth as a misery, that is explained in the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam by Lord Kapila. So, we are forced to enter the womb of the mother. It's not our choice because of our karma, previous karma. And in the womb of the mother, we are given a specific material body. And after we are born, we come out of the mother's womb. Then this body is a constant source of trouble for us as long as we are in this body, whatever we call the lifespan. If I live 80 years, 80 years the body keeps on giving me one trouble after another. Janma, the trouble of Janma, that is undergoing the tribulation in the mother's womb for 9 months. Then after coming out, Vyadhi, Jara and Mrityu. Disease, old age and death. These 3 other fundamental miseries are awaiting the living entity who comes out of the mother's womb with a material body, and then the material body becomes the instrument for continuously giving suffering after suffering after suffering. But due to the effect or influence of the illusory energy, we interpret one type of suffering as enjoyment and another type of suffering we think it is suffering. This is the influence of the material energy. See, Just like when a doctor gives you an injection, there is piercing of the body, correct? And it is perceived as pain only. Nobody says, oh, it's very nice. Taking the injection, the prick of the syringe. But when somebody goes to get their ear pierced for wearing a nice earring, then that piercing is oh so nice, so beautiful, so very wonderful. But in reality, isn't it painful when the ear is pierced for making the hole to wear that earring? It is painful. But under illusion, people think, oh, it's not pain. It is a pleasure. This is the truth about every experience we have in this material world through our senses. That some kind of sense experience, sense contact with the sense objects is perceived as pleasurable. And some other sense contact is not pleasurable. This is difficult to understand normally, but with a simple example, Srila Prabhupada explains this in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, water is the same whether in winter or summer. Water is the same. But in summer, water at normal temperature is perceived as very, very pleasurable. The same water at the same temperature in winter, it is perceived as not very pleasing. So generally in winter, we heat the water and take a hot water bath or a warm water bath. So water is the same. Depending on the circumstances, whether it is winter or summer, we perceive it as pleasurable or not pleasurable. Fire. Fire is the same. But in winter, for somebody to go inside a kitchen, especially in the places where winter is very severe, like North India or the cold countries. Oh, winter, entering the kitchen, very pleasurable. Go and work there. The same, same kitchen in summer, especially in North India, summer is very, very severe, very, very, very hot. So to enter the kitchen is impossible, very, very difficult. So the fire is the same. Fire is always hot. But just circumstantially, we interpret winter, it is very pleasing. Enter the kitchen. And summer, it's not so pleasing. It's in fact painful. So like that, everything in this material world is simply illusory experience of pleasure or pain. And that also simply due to this body. You've heard many times, we are not this body, we are spirit soul. As spirit soul, we are simply undergoing an experience. What is called as pleasure or pain has nothing to do with the spirit, with the real you. You are simply interpreting some particular sense contact as pleasure or pain based on the influence of illusion, Maya. It is a play of Maya, actually. Your real pleasure is spiritual. While there is something called spiritual pleasure, there is nothing called spiritual pain. It doesn't exist. Spiritual experience is only pleasure. Anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamrita swadanam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, chant Hare Krishna and you will experience transcendental bliss, which is like an ever-expanding ocean of bliss. Ananda Ambudi, Ananda Sagara. And it is not like the ocean of our experience in the material world. It's always limited. The transcendental bliss, ocean of transcendental bliss in the spiritual experience is always increasing, expanding more and more and more and more. So our real pleasure is spiritual pleasure, not material pleasure or pain. We have nothing to do with material pleasure or pain. Therefore, scriptures say, come out of this illusion. Pleasure and pain. Sukha dukkha. When Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sukha dukkhe same krutva labha labho jaya jayo. Says, remain equipoised whether there is happiness or distress. What he means is, you as spirit soul, you have nothing to do with this illusory happiness or distress. Your real enjoyment is spiritual pleasure by spiritual activity called devotional service. So Krishna says, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. You engage in devotional service and experience the spiritual happiness. So that is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, after explaining the whole Bhagavad Gita. But then, to actually understand and come to realize the essence of this material existence is actually suffering, it requires spiritual guidance, spiritual practice, spiritual understanding. Otherwise, under the influence of illusion, we'll always think this material world is everything. This material world is real. This is eternal. Or I am this body. We'll always be under that misconception. So to come out of this is not possible simply by some speculation, some material activities, material pious activities. It's not possible. You have to engage in devotional service. Only then Krishna orders the material energy to free you from her clutches. We are right now in the clutches of Maya. And we can't come out simply because we want to come out. No, it's not possible. So it is only possible by Krishna directing Maya, release the soul. And Krishna does it for his devotees. So therefore Krishna says, become my devotee. Bhavamad bhakto. And who can become a devotee? Everyone, anyone. Anyone can become a devotee. So, just chant Hare Krishna, associate with devotees, practice devotional service, you become a devotee, immediately you're freed from the clutches of Maya. Which means, as Prabhupada explains, Krishna's devotees, even though they appear to be in this material world, when they are freed from the clutches of Maya, even though they are in the material world, they are not in the material world. They are like in the spiritual world because they experience transcendental bliss. Transcendental bliss in all their activities of devotional service. They don't perform any more material activities once they become devotees. They only engage in devotional service. So, this is the explanation that a pure devotee is always transcendentally situated, as much as Krishna is always transcendently situated. And therefore, even though a pure devotee is in this material world, he is not in this material world. In what sense? He is not in the material world to experience all the material miseries, material calamities, material inconveniences. It's completely aloof. Aloof as the spirit soul is aloof from matter. So you are always spirit soul, even though you may be in this material body, but you need not identify yourself with this body. You can be situated in the body, completely free from the bodily conditions. And that happens through your consciousness. So what is required to become aloof from this bodily conditions? It is required to change our consciousness from body consciousness, from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness. And this happens through devotional service. You chant and hear Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then your consciousness is becoming spiritualized. The material misconceptions are all completely getting destroyed. All your material misconceptions are getting destroyed. Then when it is complete, your consciousness is fully spiritualized. It takes a little time. But if you spiritualize your consciousness fully, then you're completely aloof from this body. Just like your dress. You're wearing a dress. But you're completely aloof from the dress. Something happens to the dress, you can just discard this dress if it is no longer usable and take a new dress. Exactly like that, a devotee does not have to discard this body and take a new body. He is always situated in a spiritual form, which is the form of the spirit soul, which is your original form, which is your real form, which is your permanent form. That is your body. That is your real form. That is your basis of existence. So by changing your consciousness, completely spiritualizing it, you are awakening your spiritual body. And you live in your spiritual body even in this world. Even while this body is there, you live in your spiritual body, inside this material body. And that spiritual body means it is completely aloof from the material conditions, the material body, the material atmosphere, everything, you're aloof. And how is it possible? By constantly practicing devotional service and coming to the spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. I'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Some announcements.